And we're recording.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 12 frames per second, also known as Toonkind at 12 FPS. I am one of your hosts for the evening, Carmichael, also known as Mikey. Don't call me Michael, it's weird. Here with Mac. Mac, who will you be playing today?
Today I'm playing just Matcha.
Today you will be playing Matcha, one of the two delightful little twins. And I'll be playing Belle and somebody else. The title of this 12 FPS is What's in a Wish? We do not have a title card for it, but we don't always need those, so that's fine.
Maybe I'll put one in there later. Who knows? If I feel like it.
If we feel like it. But for now, let me go into the summary. In our last proper I wouldn't really call it a proper game so much as a fun activity, but it's still considered in the canon for the sake of a proper game, my birthday blowout event, which involved the boys as well as some others fighting in a funny little domain of delight, invited to a funny little Fey Mouse's birthday party for a prize. The grand prize being a chocolate coin that can grant one wish. And Matcha won! And Matcha did not remember fully winning and had to have that explained by his brother. So now, where would you say Matcha is now at the time that this FPS starts? When do you think he would finally gussy up the nerve to ask about it?
Um, hmm. Maybe earlier in the morning actually. I was going to go for evening and then I realized that the morning is when Ty is most likely not going to be around.
Understandable. The morning is also when Belle would probably be trying to sleep. So, would you like to start, presumably with trying to wake Belle up?
Uh yeah. Um I think oh man, my brain is in like seven different places at the moment. I was not mentally prepared. Sorry.
You're all right. Also, for the viewer's sake, I am having some microphone echo issues, so if you're hearing me start and stop talking, it's because I have push to talk available so that the recording doesn't have any disgusting echo from my end.
Sure.
How would you like to try and wake Belle up? How would Matcha try and wake him up? Let's start there.
um, I think I think Matcha kind of lets himself into the room quietly. Uh, he doesn't want to be as abrupt about it as his brother would be. Um, so he's trying to keep quiet and maybe just nudge him awake.
And allow me to make a specific roll. That is a coin flip. Which would you say is the good side of the coin flip? Jerry, heads or tails?
Let's do heads today.
I see we're starting off on a sad note.
Ah, all right.
I get to make him a wisdom save. Actually, I should do another. Okay, which side do you want to be a natural bad dream, and which side do you want to be the unnatural bad dream?
Um, let's do tails for unnatural.
Oh, now I get to make him the wisdom save. My condolences.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so first thing, I need to assign the push to talk to maybe a different, but should I have push to talk, or do you just want to gamble with me having echo on my end?
I normally I'd say it'd be fine without it, but honestly, it's kind of obvious, and I think that's going to throw me off often. I am not used to
Understandable.
hearing my
Let
own
me pull
voice.
up the spell then. Because, Matcha, When Magic gets in the room, we're gonna have an interesting scene to describe.
Oh man, alright. Fun fact, I accidentally pulled up Matcha's level 20 sheet instead for a minute there.
See, I already deleted the level 20 sheet I made for Belle.
I'm a silly little fool and I never remove anything from my computer.
Okay, I'm gonna have to tab over and then hold V so I can read the description of what's going on. Well, not the full description. This spell shapes a creature's dreams. Choose a creature known as the target of the spell. The target must be on the same plane of existence as you. Creatures that don't sleep, such as elves, can't be contacted by this spell. You, or a willing creature you touch, enters a trance state, acting as a messenger. While in the trance, the messenger is aware of his or her surroundings but can't take actions or move. If the target is asleep, the messenger appears in the target's dreams and can converse with the target as long as it remains asleep throughout the duration of the spell. The messenger can also shape the environment of the dream, creating landscapes, objects, and other images. The messenger can emerge from the trance at any time, ending the effect of the spell early. And the target recalls the dream perfectly upon awakening. If the target is awake when you cast the spell, the messenger knows it and can either end the trance and the spell, or wait for the target to fall asleep, at which point the messenger appears in the target's dreams. You can make the messenger appear monstrous and terrifying to the target. If you do, the messenger can deliver a message of no more than 10 words, and then the target must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, echoes of phantasmal monstrosity spawn a nightmare that lasts the duration of the target's sleep and prevents the target from gaining any benefit from that rest. In addition, when the target wakes up, it takes 3d6 psychic damage. So let's get into the dream first. Matcha, when you get into the room, before you knock, you actually can hear sort of rustling that's already happening in the room itself, which is odd because Belle is not a morning person. And you don't even know him that well, but you know for a fact he would be sleeping at this hour. It shouldn't sound like there's movement. Upon cautiously, opening the door so as not to be too intrusive, you see that Belle, also known as Scratch, is. God dang it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me just a moment. I have to set a plate aside. I got huge chunks of watermelon. Okay.
Alright. Oh wait, is the Jeopardy song?
The Jeopardy song is. Do 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 do
I'm
do.
wondering if it's copyrighted.
Nah, I've heard it play so often. But anyway, I'm back.
Hi!
And you see that Belle is actually not sitting still. You could see his blanket covered form is tossing and turning, and you hear a sort of grumbling. What languages do you understand?
Not this one. I'm pretty sure I only put Common and Grelix down for Matcha. Yeah.
Understandable. You've heard this language before. You've heard Belle speak it before, but you don't understand it. But you can see that there's just a shudder and a twitch, and the way he's muttering almost makes it sound intimidated? Scared? But he's not waking up. What do you do?
Matcha doesn't know if he should wake him up. He I think he pokes him again a few times and then considers that um
Let me roll him perception to see if he can wake up, since you poked him once and then twice, so 2 perception checks. Oh my fucking god.
Hello, listening
I
audience.
want this
That was two nat ones.
in one sitting, mind you.
Oh no.
Give me a moment. I need to go to another bot to roll up what specifically he's being fucked with by.
Alright.
So you poke him, and there's a flinch to the body, but something does change.
Mm-hmm.
The language that he was speaking, you recognize was infernal. It's the language of devils and, fiends of Toon Hell. The language of demons is abyssal. You don't really know that one because you've never heard it. But infernal is definitely one you've heard before when he's cast spells in the past. But he switches over to common. And I need you to roll me a perception check to see if you can hear what he's muttering about or not.
Okay. I'm not worried at all. I think your perception is shit, thank you.
Please roll better than 2 nat ones. I'm begging.
It's better than 2 nat ones! It's a 3.
It's better by. It is 1. It is just +1. It is 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is just 3. Buddy. You don't hear what he's muttering about, but now that you're close enough, it's not that he's grumbling, it's not irritation, it's fright. It's pleading, it's whimpering, it's whining, it's something. He's wanting something or someone, but he keeps on trying to grab for the blankets or grab for something, and his legs are kicking like he's trying to swim.
Bad idea. Bad idea came to mind. Um, at this point, I'm pretty sure. I mean, at the beginning, I was wondering if Macho would be considered enough to not want to wake Scratch up, but at this point, neither of the neither of the boys really care. So he might go and get a bucket of water and just.
Oh no.
I
Go for it.
don't know how well this will end, but he's just gonna calmly leave the room, come back with a bucket half the size that he is, and just tip it over onto Scratch's bed.
I'm going to roll 3 dicks. 3. Wow. Okay. Cut that up. That's a blooper. That's a blooper.
You're gonna roll 3 what?
3d6. 3d6. I was trying to say 3d6, but actually, You know what? I'm gonna give you the opportunity for this not to go horribly,
Okay.
or at least not as horribly as it could, because I want you to roll me. We'll say acro. Either you can choose acrobatics or just a general dexterity check to see if you are actually fast enough to wake him up before the nightmare can hurt him.
Okay. I think they're both the same. 17.
Good news! He does not take 3d6 psychic damage.
Woo!
For the recording, I said d6. I said d6. I've been trying to say d6. Ignore the blooper.
Nothing happened.
But you do indeed splash with the bucket of water, and he awakens with a surprisingly feminine shriek, and just actually shoots up out of the mattress and clings to the bottom of the top bunk. Because again, this is a bunk bed, mind you. So he has jumped up and he's clinging with his claws to the fucking mattress that's on the top bunk. He is also now sopping wet.
Good morning.
And he glances over, and I do actually need to make him a wisdom save to see if he's having a panic attack when he wakes up. Because boy, it's still gonna fuck him up. Oh, so 2 nat 1s and then a nat 20. All right, okay.
Oh, we can tell how this is going to go. This bodes well.
And then you watch as the shaking stops. And as he slides it down, he goes, "Oh, uh, it's morning." And you can watch as the claws just slowly retract, and he just falls back on the mattress. Ah, what was that for?
I, you were thrashing quite a bit.
I was having a nightmare. Was it obvious?
He nods.
Seemed like there was some horrible sea monster in a storm trying to drag me under. It wasn't. Didn't like that. Wasn't great. Don't recommend it. And he just sort of he kind of turns toward Matcha and without warning Matcha shakes himself dry, which now gets Matcha wet.
Uh, I feel I deserve that.
Anyway, I don't think you're supposed to be up at this hour, so aside from the prank, which actually thanks, I think I needed that. What is it you needed? Or did you just want to wake me up with a bucket of water today?
Give me a minute. Lucy is scratching at the door and she won't stop. Hello. Now we have a cat with us because she doesn't want to leave. So that'll be fun. All right. Where were we? Right.
And you watch as Belle yawns, and it's that cat yawn where it starts out normal and then widens the mouth and jaw and shows all the teeth before going back to normal.
This is fine. He's seen worse. Well,
Did you need something, or were you just waking me up for a prank?
that would have been funny, but no, I kind of wanted to ask for advice, I guess.
From me. Have you seen me?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't want to ask Ty again.
Again. And you watch as one of his fuzzy brows quirks. Actually, I am gonna roll something real quick. So, you're the one that gets to decide this. Should
Mm-hmm.
this roll be a D100, or should it be a charisma or wisdom save?
Do a D100. Spice it up a bit.
If it's D100, then he has to roll below his level in order for it to succeed.
Oh, never mind.
Charisma or wisdom?
Charisma. That's a nice
He
number.
shakes himself dry. There is something visually, but we'll get there in a minute. And he just kind of quirks an eyebrow. And you notice his eyebrows are fuzzier than they were before, as is his face, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
It's something about the outline of it that's a little different. You'd have to roll perception to see if you even notice or not.
And that I will do.
You don't notice shit.
Exact same roll as last time. That's nice.
The audience will notice that something about the shape and style of his face has changed a bit. Matcha doesn't fucking notice a thing. He does not notice a gosh dang thing. But yeah, you could just see the way his brow ridge, which looks this his eyebrows don't really look like they're meant to be illustrated in the rubber hose fashion now. It looks like a different style. Just raise a little.
I
And what is it you asked your brother about that you want advice from me for?
it's about the wish. You remember that, yeah?
And he kind of again, keep in mind you just woke him up from a fucking horrible nightmare. So he's taking a minute to process your words. It's like there's a delayed response. He just kind of he opens his mouth almost to say no, holds up a clawed finger, scratches his chin, looks up and thinks, and then goes, "Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, I remember. I do believe I remember you winning that one. You got a chocolate coin as your prize."
I did. I did. I still have it.
I'm surprised you haven't eaten and used it yet. I figured you would have loved chocolate and you would have just scoffed it down without a second thought.
It feels too important. Feels too important.
Fair enough.
That's why I felt like it'd be a good idea to ask someone that isn't my brother. He he has the interesting ideas, but none I want to use up immediately.
All right. Well, give me just a moment. And he's going to get up and he is going to he doesn't have prestidigitation, so he can't clean his sheets off because they're wet now. But he's instead going to move to an armchair and I'm going to roll into his hammer space. I was fully expecting another one. I'm gonna be honest. Consider the way the luck has been. I was expecting an immediate fumble, and he somehow pulls out a teapot that already has tea in it. You think by the fact that he just uses produce flame to start heating under it. All right. Well, I'm getting that set up, and you actually do watch as again, since you're the one that knows what he looks like underneath, and he's a little more comfortable, you do watch as another arm casually sprouts out of his side, reaches into his hammer space, and pulls up a pair of teacups and saucers and just sets those aside. Then retracts into his body like it was never there. So while I'm heating the tea up, I'm not entirely certain I'd be the best at giving advice for a wish, seeing as I don't remember what I was really trying to wish for. Are you sure I'm the one you want to ask?
Well, I mean, I don't know who else to ask. I
Well, I mean, and he kind of pauses, then just he sets the teapot aside, still maintaining produce flame, mind you, so his eyes are now glowing yellow and black again. Just a moment. And he's gonna reach into the hammer space for that particular thing. And he pulls up that little porcelain doll head that just feels like it's watching.
There she
And
is.
yeah, he holds it out to Matcha as if to say, "Would you do the honors? I'm trying to heat tea."
He nods and takes it, and then rubs it aside.
Once, twice, thrice, and while Belle is casually pulling up the teapot and continuing to heat it with produce flame, just on the tips of his fingers, the familiar mist flows from the eyes and the mouth of this doll head and coalesces into a familiar, kitschy mid-century modern art style in the form of Jenny the Genie. Da 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 da. Da. Oh, and as soon as she manifests, you see she is also in her pajamas. She's in a nightgown. Very pretty, mind you, but she also looks like she was snoozing. Lifts up the eyelids. Yes, what is it? What? Oh! Oh, hi there, Matcha. Nice to see ya.
Hi,
What is
Jenny.
it you need, dear?
Uh, I've had trouble figuring out. Oh, wait, did we tell you about the wish?
The what? Oh, right. I did not mention anything about that. We got invited to a party in a domain of delight in the Feywild, which apparently took place in a dream. Oh, that sounds like fun. What happened? We had a birthday fight hosted by the birthday boy, and Matcha here won the grand prize. Ooh! Wait, prizes at a birthday party? It was the birthday boy's idea. He wanted to be nice. I don't question it. A gift's a gift. Anyway, Matcha won a chocolate coin that can grant a wish. Problem is, he doesn't know what to do with it. And Jenny just gets a look of, oh, that is interesting, and just glances over to Matcha. Can I see the coin?
I'm gonna do a hammer space roll for that.
Yes!
It's nice. Let me pull up his hammer space if I can remember where it is. That's not it. There it is. Okay, I didn't finish filling this in, so that's two ones in a row. That's nice. He pulls out a can of soup. Uh, looks at it first. It does a double take. Looks at it and then shoves it back in his pocket. He's gonna roll again. There we go. And then he pulls out the coin and holds it up to her.
Sorry, give me just a moment. I'm having watermelon.
All right.
Okay. And she doesn't take it, but she just looks it over. Gives it a sniff, even though her little nose is just painted in a very simple style. Just sniff, sniff. Ah, yeah, that would explain it. Smells like the well of inspiration. Not sure how they got water from the well though. But I just chalk that up to ways of the Fae and leave it at that. Well, why don't you help him out with it? We figured you'd know a bit more, and also I'm heating up tea at the moment. Ah. Well, I mean, I mean, what is it you're needing help with, hon?
Uh, coming up with something good, I guess. I kept asking Ty until he got annoyed with me and told me to leave.
Ah, okay. Well, and she goes to, and as she speaks, she goes, well, I mean, I can give some options, but ultimately it's up to, and then sits on Belle's bed, up to you, and just shoots back up at the cold wet. Why is your bed wet?
My
Did you
fault.
wet the bed? Oh, no, no, I didn't. That was his fault. It says it at the same time as Masha does.
um, I think he'll take the bucket, which is still sitting in the corner of the room, I guess, and flip it over so that Jenny can sit on that instead.
And she does, just floats over. It, just she can prestidigitate the wet gone, but sits on the bucket, just crosses her dainty little legs. A wish is really neither good nor bad. That's decided by those that are present and those that are making their wishes. You can't really make a bad wish, especially with what I assume to be a wish from the Feywild. You really can't make a bad wish with that.
No, yeah, but it's important and it's big, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna get a wish like this again. I don't want to waste
Fair
it.
point. Fair point. A lot of people have wasted wishes though, and they found they get more later. But if you don't want to waste yours, there's a lot of options. And she just kind of, just snaps into existence a pair of half moon spectacles and a little pad of paper. You can't see what's written on it, but it's like she's going down in this imaginary list. Let's see, you could wish for the perfect voice. You could wish to be one of the most beautiful people in the world. You could wish to grow up. You could wish to never grow old. You could wish for your family members' immortality. You could wish for immortality. You could not wish to die. Wishes can't kill you or kill anybody else. You could wish for a car, you could wish for a house, you could wish for your pet to come back home, you could wish for a pet, you could wish for friends. That's something. You could wish to make friends. You could wish for your parents' marriage to work out. There's really a ton of things. It depends. What are things you're considering wishing for?
Well, Ty kept bringing up, well, they seem fun, but I don't want to just jump to that without considering, but, mostly a bunch of, sweet related wishes, like, uh, an unlimited gobstopper, one of those, and, what was the other thing? What was the other thing? Unlimited ice cream, but a lot of unlimited things.
Those are other things you could wish for. Those would fit. And those wouldn't exactly be bad wishes either. An endless bucket of ice cream does sound nice.
But what if
He
I get
says
the
as
ice
he's still
cream?
heating, he is still heating up the tea.
What if I get the ice cream and then later I decide I'm sick of ice cream and I don't want it anymore, or something else more important comes up, or whatever.
Well, you're not gonna predict the future, but if that comes up, then you could just give the endless bucket of ice cream to someone else as a bargaining piece.
It's true.
There are other things you can wish for aside from sweets, though. Is there anything aside from sweets you would want that you don't think you'd be able to get by normal means?
Well, I brought it up to Teacup earlier, but we wanted to see if we could kind of deal with a little bit of what's going on back home while we're stuck here for a bit.
Back home? What's going on back home? And Belle gets a slightly softer look at that.
It's a mess. There's a lot of fighting going on, and
Oh, there isn't a war going on at home, is there? Oh, no, no, I don't think it's that. I think they would have said it was a war if it was. I don't think it's a war. What did you say it was, Matcha?
it's not a war, but it sure is messy. Um, that's why we came to find Scratch, Bell, Scratch. Um,
You can just call me Belle. Old Scratchworks is a nickname, but Ben is fine.
Bell it is. Um, anyway, that's why we came to come get you in the first place, because after you left, things went to shit. Sorry, swear. Hold on, actually. He pulls out a little swear jar and puts a gold piece in it and then puts it away again.
Wow, animation rules really did change in this day and age. They actually allow kids to curse. Not without limitations to the gag. But, I mean, you could wish for that. I assume you'd have to word it in a specific way. That way it doesn't. Well, like I said, I doubt a wish from the Feywild, a wish from a birthday party is gonna go wrong. But you're gonna want to word it so that way it actually works. It doesn't just work if you hold the coin, does it? No, I do believe you have to make your wish and then eat the coin
Or throw it in a well.
or throw it in a well. Why you would throw a perfectly good chocolate coin in a well is beyond me, but
Maybe you don't
he
like chocolate.
shrugs. He also shrugs and goes, I assume that would just be a cardinal sin against nature. Yeah, who doesn't like chocolate, honestly?
Matcha just nods along.
Jenny, darling, if you would, yeah? Would you? And he kind of nods his head to the teacups. Oh, yeah, sure. And she's going to pick up one of the teacups and saucers and hold it up, and Belle is going to snuff the produced flame and pour some nice hot jasmine tea for her. And then she's going to hand that cup to Matcha, and she's going to pick up the second cup for herself, and he's going to pour that for her. Thank you. Of course. And he just sets the teapot aside, snuffs produce flame, and you two now have a nice hot cup of jasmine tea.
I think Matcha takes a sip of it immediately and then burns his tongue. Goes, ah!
You saw me heat it up.
It smelled good.
Bill just smiles and shakes his head. Jenny sips it without any trouble. You can hear the sizzle it makes when she sips it. She does not react like it. She does not react like it hurts.
That's fine.
Very nice. Thank you. Of course. I do believe there are other things you can wish for, but that in and of itself would be a good wish if you want that to be. Again, one thing to consider is you don't have to think about the distant future with wishes. You don't have to worry about the future. Your wish should be concerned with now, not next. And maybe if you make a wish about the past, what was, but mostly focusing on what is rather than what was or what could be is best for a wish. Right.
Uh, he looks a little frustrated for a minute. Can't tell if Lucy wants out or not. She's looking at the door.
I assume if she wants out, she'll tell you.
Yeah, she wants out. Alright, she's scratching. Give me a minute. Alright. Okay, yeah. Matcha looks momentarily frustrated before he mumbles something about someone having to think about the future around here.
I'm gonna roll perception to see if either of them hear that. Okay. I. Okay. Let's use the net 20 here. All right. Thank you, Dice Parser. I see the dice really do love Bill.
No middle sliders today.
Jenny's could be worse, it could be better. But Bill perfectly hears that. He just doesn't say anything. What we mean when we say that is if you get too caught up thinking about the future or what could be when it comes to a wish, then you just never make the wish. You're just stuck in a cycle of indecision and concern until Judgment Day. Because then you'll always be stuck thinking about the future and you'll never be grounded in the present. Don't think about what you want in the future. Think about what you want now, what you could have now, or what you could use now, or what you feel you want now that you remember and you might forget later. I mean, it's not just that you can wish for food or conflicts to end. You can wish for information. You can wish to check on people. You can wish about family. You can wish for people's happiness. You can wish for people to be cured from disease. You can wish for anything. But what's important, dear, and as she says this, she still adjusts her hole in the teacup and leans just a little toward Matcha. Just a little lean of attention, not a lean of invading space.
Mm-hmm.
Is you have to be concerned with what you want. Whether you want to use the wish for yourself or for someone else, and for what. Don't worry about what could be or what was. Don't worry about what other people would think of it. That wish is yours and yours alone. It's up to you.
That's kind of what I said too.
Then maybe in this case you should listen to your brother.
He has a brief look like you just said the most abysmal thing. I I have been worrying about this more than I should be.
Sorry, had another mouthful.
Mm-hmm.
Then take a sip of your tea, relax, clear your head, and maybe tell us what comes to mind. You want to wish for your island's safety, that's one thing, but clear your head a little and see what else comes up, what you feel is important, what you want. And as she says that, she also takes another long sip of the tea. And Bell, at this point, is going to reach into his hammer space for a cup of his own. Goodness, Bell's high rolling today. Takes up another cup, pours himself a hot cup, and just sips. You can see, even with his tail, his tail's slowly getting better from being tied up so often. It's still a little crooked, though, a little curly. You can see the way it just stops twitching and just starts to relax a little as he takes that first sip.
I think I think Matcha ends up taking a sip and trying to clear his head and follow their advice. And then he takes another sip, and then another, and then the cup's empty, for one. And it's it's kind of obvious that even though he's trying to just clear his head and think just like you said, think of the one thing that comes to mind, he's trying too hard.
And Bell looks at that for a moment, and I'm gonna roll him something. And Bell, the dice decide that Bell, his physical dice, I got him a physical set for the viewers that are unaware, for stealthy rolls. Thinks in a moment. And as Much is struggling and Jenny's watching with, that was a severe thunderstorm warning, ignore the beeping in the background, I hope that's not catching.
I did not pick it up at all.
Good, 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 that would be aggravating if it did. And he goes, Jenny? Oh, yeah? Is it alright if I use one of my wishes? And Jenny looks at him for a moment like he shot a firecracker. Huh? I mean, did you remember what you wanted to use one of them for? Well, no, I just want to use one. Uh, but, and she's kind of glancing between Matcha and him like, why?
I think he matches her expression.
Yeah, just like, to help him out. To, to help him out, how exactly? And he gestures Jenny over and she just floats over. She's still sitting as she floats and just sort of leans in and he whispers in her ear a bit and she goes, Are you sure about that? Is that. And he nods. You positive that's. You only get three? I mean, that'd be nice, but that's only. That leaves you with just two. And then that's it. No more wishes from genies. Period. And he gets this tired look. Keep in mind, again, you woke him from an awful magically induced nightmare. Jenny, how is it I'm more certain that I want to use a wish than you at the moment? Uh, well, I mean, not that I'm not certain that you want to use it, that not that I don't want to grant it for you because I'd be okay with it, really. I, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And she just kind of rubs the back of her neck and just runs her fingers through her hair, which you actually can't see because the way her nightgown works is she also has a good portion of the cloth wrapped around her hair and head, so you can't really see it. Yeah, just you're right. Yeah. Sure. He's going to look at Matcha. I understand it's difficult to think about what you want to wish for. So, how about we go through some things and we see what you want and don't want? All right?
He slowly nods.
You don't want to use it on any of the sweets that Ty mentioned because you feel like you want to use it for something more important, correct?
Correct.
So, let's purge the thought of the sweets from our mind for the moment. Don't think about the sweets. The sweets are inconsequential. And he kind of waves his hand as if to just discard the thoughts of candy and ice cream. One of your ideas for a wish would be that you would like to help the island feel safer. How would you word that exactly?
Hmm. I. Hmm. I would wish for everyone to stop fighting for a bit.
And he's going to glance over to Jenny and just give a look of, do you think that would work? Uh, I mean, yeah, it's worded correctly, though if you want the fighting to stop for longer periods, you probably wouldn't say for a bit. You'd just say, I wish everyone at home would stop fighting. And because I said that, I can't grant my own wishes. So I'm okay with saying that. Just, you don't say that out loud. And she points at to Bill like he's going to make the mistake, and he just rolls his eyes. And then he glances over to Matcha. All right. Is there anything else that you're torn on wishing for, aside from stopping the island from fighting? Anything else that's itching at the back of your mind, that's bothered you for however short or long a time that you don't know if you'll ever get the chance to answer for?
uh, I think Matcha's been sitting on the floor for quite some time now, and as you keep going with this question, he kind of like rocks back and forth a little bit. There is absolutely something weighing on his mind. Um, you want to do an insight?
Sure thing. That would be a 17 on insight.
Okay. This is something that he has only really talked to Ty with, and even then didn't really cover too much. He didn't. This conversation was short and brief, and honestly a little awkward. Um, and he's hesitant to bring it up again because, at least with Ty, he feels like he's the only one who's focused on it. I guess who cares that much.
And Belle, of course, he's gonna set the tea in his lap and he's going to sort of lean forward from his spot on the armchair and just extends a hand. I assume Matcha's sitting nearby on the floor and not too distant.
Right.
And just sets a soft paw on his shoulder. Whatever it is, I would like to help. And if it's that personal, I won't tell anyone about it. I promise. And he actually tries to smile, and yeah, you know, you don't normally see soft smiles on, the devil's face, but that actually is about as soft as it gets. And it actually is the smile you remember him having in your memory that currently is not distorted with static around his face. Huh. Odd.
Odd. Yeah, that's. Oh, thank you. I think. Okay. He he takes a breath and then fiddles with the thumb of his glove again, and I don't know if you remember, but when we went camping that one night, you um brought up Teacup and mine's parents, and I wanted. Neither of us really know what happened or anything, and was I don't know if I wanted to use the wish on that, on knowing, but I don't think Teacup cares as much as I do, and I don't want to know. Uh, I don't know if knowing is going to ruin anything or make me upset, or I'm gonna want to wish I didn't wish for that.
And Belle sits there for a moment and thinks. And then he nods. Well, I have 3 wishes. If the first one fails, the second one can undo it. Jenny? Yeah. I wish that. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, rewinding my words a bit. Do we just want it to be the boys and I, just the boys, or for. Hmm. And he glances over at Macho, who I assume Macho does not need an insight check to realize the wish that Belle is about to just use for him.
He looks a little confused, actually. Above board, I did not catch on.
Well, you're about to.
Oh boy.
I wish that the boys and I would know what happened to their parents. To Taekwonyin and Macha's parents, not mine. I know what happened. Yeah, it's okay. Just rewind your words a bit. You're making the wish a bit longer. All right. I wish that Matcha, Taekwonyin, and I would know what happened to Taekwonyin and Matcha's parents.
I should mention,
Now I need to roll her a check to see if she remembers how to grant a fucking wish.
as Scratch is actively making this wish, Matcha looks like he wants to stop him, but he's hesitating.
Would you say that's an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma save to remember how to grant a wish?
How about wisdom?
Okay. And she snaps her fingers, and nothing happens. Belle blinks. Jenny, did I say it incorrect? No, no, you said it incorrectly. Snaps her fingers. Again. Again. Is this not the gesture I use to make spells? Is this not snaps, snap, 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 snap? No, okay, and Bell actually tilts his head. Jenny? Yeah, I got it, I got it. I swear I've got it. It's gonna take a, was it, no, snaps, was it clap on, clap off? Try it again. Let's try clapping. Belle does not look at even remotely convinced, but I wish Taekwonyin Matcha and I would know what happened to Taekwonyin and Matcha's parents. And she tries to clap her hands. Nothing. Jenny, do you not remember the do you not remember how to cast wish? I mean, I know you make a wish, and I know it requires a gesture. Matcha, if you would like to, you and Scratch, or Bell as you know him now, can make Arcana checks.
Alright. 13. God damn, Belle.
But I know you had to do a gesture for it. I mean, I always did a gesture. It was like a little. You don't do gestures for wish. You just speak it, and it happens. Oh, is that it? It only has a verbal component. You just have to speak the right words, and it's granted. Oh, okay. Uh, well, I did something physical when I was granting wishes. What was it? What was it? What was it? And yeah, with an Arcana check, wish is a verbal component only spell. When most people cast it, they just have to speak the wish, and it is granted. They don't have to do any gestures. It is verbal only. But
Mm-hmm.
Jenny's I'm gonna roll her one more wisdom save to see if she can remember. That was not a nat 1, that was a nat 2.
Jenny beloved.
Jenny is was it no, it wasn't a belly dance, it wasn't a shimmy, it wasn't the hop, it wasn't the sock dance, it wasn't the sock hop. um and she's still trying to snap her fingers. She's trying different gestures with her hands now. The lines are blurred as she's trying different things. And Belle is just looking more and more sympathetic and just passes a glance to Matcha.
Matcha had been like holding his breath up until this point, and now he's just he looks back at Belle.
Belle very sympathetically shrugs. Kind of with a look of, I don't know how to help this. Do you have any ideas? Because again, you were also talking to the resident amnesiac, who has also
Right.
forgotten a lot of things.
Matcha just shrugs as well.
I'm gonna roll him one check. It's an intelligence check. Wait, did I use intelligence or was that something else for his memory?
I don't remember. Ironically, don't remember.
We're gonna use intelligence this time. D20 plus 2. Bell, fucking really? But eventually he sort of gets up, he sets the cup aside, he just reaches over and enough, enough. Can you grant the wish or not? Yeah, of course! I can totally grant wishes. I just maybe you could just not do the gesture? I mean, yeah, but you can roll me an insight check if you want.
That I'll do. Middle slider, 10.
You don't actually need a high number to get it. The way that she sort of lowers her hands and clasps them together, trying to look professional, the painful look she gets, even though Bell is doing his best and he is also not at all neurotypical, is like the equivalent of trying to tell a kid that is stimming not to stim when they do a thing.
Hmm.
It is not that the gesture is necessary for the spell, but it is necessary for her. It is a tick, it is a stim, it is something she physically has to do when she does the wishes. And when he tells her just not to, she clasps her hand together and it looks like she's gonna try and remember how, but she does not look comfy with keeping her hands still.
Maybe the
I'm gonna
gesture
see if
helps
Belle
anyway.
notices. What?
After noticing that, he'll go, maybe the gesture helps anyway.
But it's. I'm gonna roll him instead as they say, but it's a verbal component only spell. I don't get how. Oh, okay. Well, alright, so is there anything you do remember about the gesture? Anything I do remember? Yeah, I have to do a gesture. It involves both arms. It involves both arms and my head. I know that much. Um, alright, so it involves both arms. Did you put them on your hips? And he actually puts his on his hips. On his fuzzy little round hips. Hmm. Maybe? Maybe? I don't. Let's try it. Sure. And she just sets her hands on her hips like Peter Pan. Like just stands on top of the bucket. She does the fucking Peter Pan pose. You know the one.
Yeah.
Make your wish. I wish that Tai Guanyin, Mach and I would know what happened to the boys' parents. And I'm gonna roll her to see if she remembers because above a board, putting her hands in her hips does not do it.
Thought so.
And she kind of nods for a moment, and you can hear the jingle. The head nod is part of it. You actually hear the audible bell jingle, but the wish doesn't happen. And she kind of pauses, opens her eyes again, glances around. I think that was half correct. Was it the hands? Was it the hands? No, no, that doesn't. No. She kind of shakes her head, and you can hear the jingle fade, and she hears it fade. Oh, head, head gesture. Head's part of it. Ah, all right. That fixes part of it. So you have to nod when you cast it. Yeah, and she's nodding, and you can hear the bell jingle every time she nods her head.
Okay, you said it involved both arms.
Yeah,
You
it
cross.
involves both arms and the head nod. Both arms and the head nod.
Did you cross your arms?
She pauses a moment and then holds up a finger. I haven't tried that yet. Okay. And she sits back down, crosses her legs, and folds her arms. And I'm gonna roll to see if she folds them correctly or not.
Oh, did I guess it?
She is based on I Dream of Jeannie, and Jeannie, when she would grant wishes, would nod her head and fold her arms.
In fact, I've never seen it.
I assumed so, so I'm very proud of you for above board getting it.
Woo!
Let's see if they remember that. Okay, so she crosses her legs, and when she folds her arms, you recognize this gesture. Because you've seen another genie do it. A specific genie whose butt you kicked for a contract back home.
That's probably where you got it from.
Okay, try it again. And she's maintaining the pose now. All right. Oh, sorry. For the viewers, I am not sick. Thank you for the concerns. It is just allergy drainage has, instead of messing with my stomach, messes with my sinuses and throat, so it is coughs and sneezes. And it's now raining. Nice. Granted, we might be getting into the severe part of the weather. Hopefully it doesn't kill our internet.
It's cloudy over here.
Nice. But, he goes, I wish Tai Guanyin, Matcha, and I would know what happens to the boys' parents. And She folds her arms in that same way as the XP without a name, and she nods, and you hear the bell. And when you hear the bell's ringing resonates. And both of you get the image sort of beamed in. The camera sort of zooms into the eye socket, into Matcha's eye, and into the mind, and that's when you see it. You see your mother. She's a beautifully hand painted teacup object head woman with a head in a sort of I need to remember whether it was it is in a similar style to a Tibetan teacup with a lid on top. It is beautifully hand painted. There's white, but the majority of it is yellow with all these different flowers. And you can see her eyes, which are just, again, very nicely painted style, close to rubber hose. Not quite. Stylized rubber hose, so to speak. Clearly, somebody put this rubber hose in an art movie with these big hand painted porcelain arms that are full of fat and curves and soft hands with scars and chips on them, mind you. This is a woman who bears her scars and bears them with, well, all scars are beautiful, so she bears them with grace. She has a big smile that translates well to the boys, and you can see the intersecting points where limbs meet the body. And outside the clothes, you can see part of where that painted ceramic is, and her neck, which is covered by a necklace, does have that sort of black transition. That brief transition that's seen with the boys' neck, you know?
Hmm.
And the image flashes to a moment, to a photo in the boy's house. It's sitting face down in Elder Kettle's bedroom, and as he walks over and pulls it out of that drawer and flips it up, it shows 5 tunes. Elder Kettle, 3 years younger, along with their mother, Pocha. And give me a moment. And in both of her arms, she is holding the little baby variant of the boys. You can recognize it by the colors they wear. It's in the colors of their little baby booties, it's in the colors of their shorts. And though the caps would be temporary until they grew out of them, they're little baby caps over their mugs, over the mug and the cup. Red for Taiguan Yin, blue for matcha. And sitting right between the boys is a tiny ceramic looking woman who appears to be 6 to 8 inches tall, almost a foot. And that would be the boys' other mother. They had two moms, as it turns out. They're all smiling, gathered together for this photo in fresh clothes on a lovely spring day. And the boys are just staring at the camera with, with the little clueless, innocent looks that babies have. And for a while, the memories are fresh again. It's Pocha that tucks you into bed, that rocks you to sleep if you're having trouble sleeping. She's the one that hums the lullabies. And of course, your tinier mother is the one that's usually confronting neighbors, dogs, or teachers that upset the children into crying. She is very small and very protective, apparently, in spite of the fact she looks like a very posh little explorative ceramic figure. She's a little ceramic woman, and I say woman because she's styled to look like a little human. Just a human that's only some inches tall. Of fine china with delicately painted colors, hair that is pulled back into a bun. Of course, it's ceramic hair, it's not real. And she's got this puffy sleeve, 18th century style shirt with the vest and the pantaloons and everything. She looks like an explorer. She looks like a scholar of the 18th century, down to the glasses. And they look happy. Granted, there's some conflict, but the two are also constantly out on adventures. And that's a source of conflict for Elder Kettle, for Wulong, as he is here. And Wulong and Pocha are next seen getting into an argument on the front steps. This happens multiple times, but it's the argument on the front steps in particular where it looks like they're especially steamed. Boy, that would be funnier if it wasn't a sad moment. Elder Grandpa Wulong is trying to say something. He's insisting they don't have to go on another adventure. They're too dangerous. They need to take care of their kids. And of course, Pocha's just insisting, it's just gonna be one more. We need the money. It's fine. But it just gets heated from there. There's talk of carelessness. There's talk of. Wulong makes the mistake of saying abandoned instead of something else, and this is what pisses Pocha off especially. As she gets on the case about how she's not abandoning the kids and she's not abandoning the house. But they need money and they're not making that much. Something else is said, and it's. Of course, Wulong says something about being worried if she just went on an adventure and never came home. And of course, this is where the harsh words are said. Who else would care if I didn't come home? Who else would notice if I disappeared? Certainly not you, with your nose buried in your work. And Grandpa Wulong says something else that does not help. The air is tense. There's a look of frustration and ache on Pocha's face. And a moment you can see, of course, Grandpa Wulong, he's always been an antiquated man. He's never always. He's been the most traditional in the family, and he's never been the best with his words. The boys know that. But in this instance, Matcha and Tai Guanyin in his Tai Guanyin, where he is currently, can see that the problem used to be worse 3 years ago, before everything went wrong. And after the moment passes, Wulong sighs and goes, you want one more adventure? Fine. You can go on one more expedition. But just one. And then I want to see you back home taking care of the boys that you made. Do you understand? And I'm sorry that I'm not doing the accent for him in this flashback, but again, allergies on the throat are not being
Oh
friendly.
no, you're fine.
And she just sort of. You can insight check her if you want, but you don't even need insight to tell she's. There's a sting. Something was said here that could not be taken back. Fine. One expedition. And then I'll come home and I'll play the pretty little wife that stays home all day and cooks and takes care of the kids while everyone else is just out enjoying themselves. And Wulong, of course, his expression falters. It's not what I meant, but it's what you said. I get it. We'll go out, we'll get a little more money, then we'll come back home and struggle. But the boys will be safe and we'll be safe. And that's what matters in the end. Isn't it? Wulong doesn't answer. Yeah, that's what I thought. We'll be back in a month. Hopefully that's not too long for you, Gramps. And off she goes, with her bags. Leaving Wulong standing on the doorstep of their little hut as the clouds roll in. In the distance, there is a very small ceramic figure that is their other mother, standing by one of the trees watching, and as Pocha storms by, she goes, come on. She pauses and glances back, and Wulong, as he glances back, as she glances back, there's a moment that softness is boiling over, and that traditional stern face that Grandpa Wulong has is close to tears. But as soon as their other mother glances up, he notices and sucks it in to look stern and militaristic again. And he just slams the door shut. The smaller mother just looks concerned He glances back and follows Pocha. And then the imagery changes. Over sail and over sea, exploring an old temple, hidden deep, deep, deep beneath the wilds of Satori. It's a group of explorers that you don't really recognize. Though, let me make a roll real quick.
Oh, hmm.
It is an expedition of people you don't really recognize. There's multiple races there, but there are two in particular that stick out. One of them looks vaguely like a dragonborn. I say vaguely because he's seriously concealed by cloth and wrapping and hood. And he's in the shape of a dragonborn, and he's real kind. He's not animated, but something about his appearance is off. You can choose to roll perception or insight if you want to try and spot it.
How's a 14 do?
On a 14, you you know what? We'll say a 14 is close enough. It's close enough to 15. There's something to the Dragonborn's appearance that strikes you as unsettling. It's not some uncanny valley where he looks real and isn't, or looks like he should be animated and isn't. It's not like he looks like something he shouldn't. But the unsettling factor comes from the fact that he looks wrong somehow. There's something to his appearance that isn't good. Not morally speaking, just like medicinally, physically, something's off, but he's got too much conceal. But then when his face catches the light, you realize it's because his face is mummified. It is preserved, it is embalmed, it's undead, and none of the others notice. His eyes are milky and watch, and his head is made in the shape of, we'll say, the outdated version of a T Rex. Sharp angles, large bone, large nose, small eyes that watch as the torchlight passes by. And there is another figure which appears to be, again, it just appears to be something very, very small, tiny size, that is riding along in his hood. And they're looking into something, but someone makes a wrong step, and as whatever it is, it looks like a box of some kind, is lifted. The room starts to shake, stone starts to move, everything starts to crumble, and everyone's hurrying to get out. But their smaller mother trips and falls into a pit with a loud crash. Pocha looks back, and looking startled and concerned, she hurries back. Even though the doorway to that room is closing, she darts back, and you can see that your smaller mother's fallen into a pit that's very far down, and it doesn't look pretty. It looks like one of her legs is broken off. It wouldn't look as bad if she, wasn't made of porcelain. It would look worse if she was like flesh and bone, but she can't really get up on her own, and so Pocha is quickly getting rope, trying to extend the way down, and the others are already hurried out the door, and you can see for a moment this tiny figure hops out of this dragonborn's hood and starts darting forward, and you hear a voice saying, "Hey, we gotta go! We gotta go! Just leave her! We can go!" And as you look down, you see it. A very tiny, toon-kind rat. She is a very top-heavy thing, and she's also bound for what presumably was terribly, terribly cold weather with all this overdraping cloth, but her fur is this soft champagne color, and her hair is also pulled up into a bun, along with these well-trimmed bangs. Her eyes are red. As she darts forward, you can hear Pocha say, Not without her. I'm not going. Not without her. And you can hear other voices, including a rough one that says, "We don't have time. Leave them." And the tiny rat looks back and looks back forward. No, absolutely not. We got what we came for. Leave them. And as Pocha hears this, she actually turns around looking insulted. I beg your pardon? The room shakes more and the door's falling faster. And you hear that rough voice for a moment lose a little bit of the edge. Come on, hurry! And the rat is glancing between Pocha trying to help up her wife, who is now taking that rope and carefully climbing up, though it's difficult. And just she's glancing back and forth, back and forth. And as the door is falling lower, it is more difficult and more unlikely that they would make it. And she's just, but, but. And allow me to pull up her spell list real quick. And she's just, I'm gonna roll to see if she actually does stay or ditches the two and doesn't try to buy them time. This will be a deception roll to herself, so it is a +8. And persuasion to stay. There's a moment she looks like she considers it, leaving the two behind to their fate, but instead, let me pull up her spell list because she's going to help. And she gets onto the rope and starts sliding down it. Keep in mind, she is a tiny creature as well, but she is shorter than this one by only a few inches. And slides down and down, and you could hear a shout in Draconic at the other end as the door is shutting. But she goes down and, pulling a grasshopper's hind leg from her pocket, just smacks their other mother with it and triples her jump distance with the jump spell. And as another 6 seconds pass, she grabs her and Misty steps back up rather than letting her climb slow. You can hear her swear, and you can actually hear the others have already stormed aside. Whether you follow their gaze or not, the others have left and moved on. The only figure that's staying is the figure in robes, the dragonborn that you realize is undead. Hurry! And Heidi, as you will come to hear, just you do happen to hear, of course, as you hear the name said, and she's just trying to run along at first. Pocha is picking up her wife, who is now missing a leg and a foot, mind you, and is just trying to run along. And you just hear, Heidi, come on! And she is Misty Step, Misty Step, Misty Step, Misty Step, and she makes it. And for a moment, it seems like Pocha and her wife will as well. They're dashing. She's trying to move so quick with her tiny wife in her arms. And allow me to pull something up real quick. The hooded figure glances over, just now holding Heidi, who is looking exhausted and is just trying to gesture for the other two to come along. Come on, come on! I can try and slow it down, come on! And as she's trying to say this, the dragonborn figure lifts a hand and mutters something in a language you do not understand. And the door shakes more. And as Pocha's eyes widen and she tries to make a jump for it, it slams down shut. And you just hear a no get cut off by the dead silence of the door. There is a heavy thud as Pocha's shoulder gets into the. She actually, I need to make a strength check for her to see if she cracks it. It is ancient stone, though. And there is indeed a resounding. Have you ever heard the sound concrete makes when it cracks?
I don't think so, actually. I can
It is
imagine
a
it.
it's a heavy, hefty sound that sounds less like proper stone breaking and more like the earth is splintering. And there is a heavy, crumbling crack, but she's not strong enough. And the door, of course, is heavy and ancient. On the other side of the door, you see this young rat who appears to be 15 in age, just shocked and horrified and then guilty as she just hides her face for a moment in her paws. And then you hear her glance up to the dragonborn as he's turning and walking away, and she snaps, Uncle, why? They helped! They helped as much as they could. We can't have any loose ends, even the helpful kind. I'm sorry, Heidi. And she just. There is a moment she actually looks like she's debating whether to jump off of this uncle, quote unquote, and try to get to the door. But when she tries to move, he catches her with a hand, and it doesn't take a lot for him to hold her tight and just walk off with her squirming in his grip. Eventually, her struggling stops, and all you can hear is just her trying to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, amidst tears as it eventually grows dead silent. Everything else seals shut behind them. Door after door after door, slam, slam, slam. Everything crumbles and rumbles to dust and ruin, and they get out. And then we cut back to Pocha and her lovely little wife. Pocha has been trying to bash against the door with her shoulder. She's tried lifting it with her big, soft, but strong hands. Nothing. Just tries busting it again and again. Nothing. And you can see that your tiny other mother has been set aside, just staring in disbelief. Cracks as there are, the door doesn't give. And eventually, Pocha, worn out, physically, emotionally, mentally, slides against the door and collapses. Damn it all! I should have known better. Hey, hey, no, listen. I should have been the one to see it coming. It's fine. And she just kind of scoots a little toward her. I could have just. She's trying to, like, swear. She's trying to get upset again, but the way her hands just beat against the door, there's nothing. Her hand-painted blue eyes just grow dull and sad and well up with these hand-painted tears. And her tiny wife just scoots closer and just sets a very small porcelain hand on her foot. Someone will notice. They'll find us. We'll be all right. We're in a ruin that hadn't been found since the last erasure. What makes you think anybody's gonna know to check? She opens her mouth. And furthermore, what makes you think they ain't just gonna say, we died? Huh? What makes you think they won't just say we died? Nobody will look for us if they think we're dead. And she just, with a little clink, sets her head against it, and her lid almost falls off. It's not meant for that angle. We shouldn't have come here. We should have just stayed home. We didn't need the money. We should have just stayed. And her tiny wife just sits there and sort of crawls into her lap. And the two comfort each other as time passes. And passes and passes. Despite what you may think, you do not see them wither and decay until they are emaciated and lifeless. That is not what happens here. Instead, weak as they look, you hear a soft rumble. Stone is being moved, slid, and you hear a soft buzz, as if by wings, and voices in a language you do not understand, unless you understand Sylvan?
Mm-mm. I'm shaking my head like you could say me.
It's a different language. It sort of sounds like if you were speaking cursive in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And she just, the tinier wife just lifts her head a bit and just sort of, she starts shaking and patting at, Pocha's wrist. And Pocha's just, 5 more minutes, Ma. I don't want to go to school. She sounds so tired. No, not school. Not your mother. Not yours. Voices! Look! Look, why did I say look? Oh, I'm so stupid. She just sort of smacks her lap with her little porcelain hands. And Pocha just sort of tiredly opens an eye. And she hears it too. Huh? What? Hey! Hey! Hello! But her voice is quiet, as is her wife's. But when they try, there's a sort of. They try causing a ruckus, and for a moment it seems as if they're not heard. It's your tinier mother that is the one that starts banging on the door. And in spite of her tiny size and the fact she is missing a leg and a foot, she does in fact manage to do so with a resounding thunderous wham, which you presumably means she tried to do the stupid move of using Thunderwave in an underground environment. The voices abruptly stop, and you cut away to the other side, where it appears to be a collective of elves, pixies, and fairies. One in particular that you recognize, with licorice twist hair, a beret, and a cape over his shoulder. He glances over, googly eyes sort of twitching. His ears perk, and then he speaks in that cursive language, nods toward the door, and you can see one of the elves appears to be dressed in the garb like that of a druid, and starts to mutter something under her breath while holding a bundle of mistletoe. And the vines that they had been using to clear the way slowly begins pulling away rubble and debris and cracked bits and pieces and starts to lift the heavy door. Then the image changes again. Pocha and her wife are sitting at a table that is very nicely decorated with towering heaps of fresh hot food and finely brewed drink, which they are indulging in happily due to the fact that they look like they're that close to expiring. While a collective of fruity looking elves and food based fairies stands aside and watches. At the other end of the table sits a woman, one that you don't recognize. Her long reddish-brown hair is pulled up in ribbons into this sort of debutante style. A Gibbons girl hairstyle. A Gibson girl, my bad, Gibson girl style. And though perhaps she would have been seen in an apron or something else, she is dressed more casually, in a nightgown with these puffy sleeves, her softly painted cheeks and tapered long ears, and lips that look as soft as chocolate, and eyes that are just as warm. She is a fair-skinned Fey, by the looks of her, and is watching them eat. am terribly sorry to hear what transpired. If we were any later, you might have expired. Is there anything that we could do to help? So long as it doesn't involve a yelp. And Pocha just glances up from. She is holding a phenomenally big leg of some kind. You don't know what it was attached to, but that is a very big, very well cooked leg. Hmm? Oh, it just chews. No, I think we're good here. Once we get fed and get our stuff, we could just go home. That's all. And your tinier mother nods. She is not able to take very big bites, but God, is she just churning through a plate of corn. She is just fucking burning through it like bullets. And this older Fey woman smiles. And it's the softest, most welcoming smile. Well, if you do change your mind, know that we're here and we'll be kind. And she turns and nods, and Roquefort. There's no mistaking him, it is indeed Roquefort. Nods and goes, see to it their rooms are prepared. And he bows his head. Oui, grandmama. And goes. The next image, of course, does show them packing, but Pocha looks a little uncertain. And her tiny wife, who appears to now have, at the moment, it appears her leg and foot have been found, but they're drying. They've been sort of glued on magically, and she's waiting on it to actually sit. Is everything all right? Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. It's fine. That's not the sound of it being fine. Yeah, I know it's not. Maybe you can just trust me this once? Is it too much to ask? Oh, no, I do trust you. But I also trust you to talk about when you're not feeling right about something. Well, yeah, just. And she just sort of rubs the back of her neck, glances over. And you do see that now, thanks to the cave in and her throwing herself against the door, she does have a fresh new crack running down one eye and cheek. Just something felt off. Off? If it's about the temple, then yes, I agree we should have been able to see the mutiny sooner. No, not that. The dinner. You didn't notice anything about it? The dinner. I mean, it was delicious. And oh, the dishes were very cute. Yeah, that's just it. The dishes. They didn't look weird to you? Sweetheart, we live in a world where everything has a face. What makes you think dishes having faces would be weird? And then she processes that a minute, and they sit in silence, and you are kind of sitting on what was your mother's bed next to her things. That's where you are, positionally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, what is Matcha doing in this sort of vision state? Does he have any physical reaction, or is he just sitting and watching?
Um, I think he's messing with his hands again. He's playing with his gloves. He just watches. He'll have a reaction. He will whenever something happens, or but it's subtle.
But a moment passes, and then. No, actually, you're right, that was weird. Why did all their cups have faces on it? You think they would match to one set, but none of them look like they fit. Right? Look, I know we gotta head home soon. I'm worried about the kids. I'm worried about Papa. I know you are too. That just felt weird, you know? No, I totally get you. That was. You think if she had a collective of all these weird head-shaped dishes, they would belong in the same set. They wouldn't look so different. But, I mean, we could also just go home. But, yeah, but no, I mean, we could just go home. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to follow it. We could just go home, forget the whole thing, and we could just ask your father about it later. That would be splendid. Well, yeah, but there's no guarantee he's going to know anything about it. Besides, I look, I know you don't want to talk about anything with him right now, but I just want to go home, hun. I've spent enough time trapped in a little stone box. I've got food. We've got gifts. I really don't think we need to overstay our welcome, especially with a Fey court, mind you. Yeah, we're not going to overstay it. Can we look at it with a little, just a bit, and then I'll go home. Promise. Sweetheart, is there a promise you're going to keep or a promise you're making to make me feel better? And she folds her arms. And Pacha gets an expression that you realize both you and your brother have made before. That's just the look of, it's a promise I intend to. And your small mom raises a single beautifully painted eyebrow. It's a promise to make you feel better. That's what I thought. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at where they keep their dishes, satisfy our curiosity, and then go right home before they find out and suddenly renege on feeling so very hospitable and nice. Because you know that never goes well if you betray their hospitality. Yes, yeah, I know. I don't intend to. I just, Darla, something felt weird, you know? Really weird. I know. I just, we've already risked so much. If anything is weird, I just want to go home. Can we do that? Can we just look and then go? And she kind of thinks a moment, nods. Yeah, we'll just look and go. So, let's go see where they put their dishes. And the image changes again, and they sneak off. She is clearly holding her wife up, considering the fact she's just nestled in her arm, similarly to how you and your brother were. Because again, her leg and foot are healing. She's not very good at walking at the moment. It's not that she can't, but she's kind of got to recover to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just looking, and you can see that they're collecting all the dirty dishes and bringing them to these. I should preface, the room is beautifully painted. It is this beautiful Baroque Renaissance sort of look to it. That 17th and 18th century dining hall looks very fancy and very, very posh. And they are just food that hasn't been eating is being divvied out between the guards, between staff, between other Fae whose features you don't really want to directly look at because now they don't have to hide their faces and eh, depends on your taste, but they don't look at some of them because they don't want to look at some of them and try and comprehend whatever body thing they have going on. One of them has way too many eyes, another one has finally shown that he has more legs than a spider. Ugh. Again, it's not that they look bad, but they're just not comfy looking. And then you can see, of course, there's a few that are in these white uniforms with these brown aprons that are just heading over into the kitchen with these stacks of dishes. And they just kind of sneak along, and it's a very cartoony style of sneaking. Pocha is hiding behind a vase with this big tropical looking plant, and she's hiding her wife in the fucking flower pot. And they already have decorations, so whenever a guard looks over, she hides behind this potted plant, and your tiny mama pretends to look like part of the decoration and pose with the other little ceramic fairies sitting on the plant. And the elf stares for a moment and then goes back to, eating one of those very nice cinnamon rolls that have not been touched. And they just continue inching along, sit and pose, continue inching along, sit and pose, continue inching along, sit and pose. I'm getting impatient. Can I just throw you at the? You are not throwing me at the door, or I will throw you to the doghouse. Do you understand? Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Off they continue moving, and then eventually they get to the kitchen door, and then as the door is being opened by another guard hurrying in, they glance around and then quickly get in before the door can close. Duck into the shadows. And the magic distorts the full details of the room. It blurs the edges. But this kitchen is a lot more medieval looking than the rest of the dining hall and room architecture. And it's also fucking gigantic. There is a wall smack in the middle that separates one half of the kitchen from the other. The first half that they're in is where all the food is being prepped. There's stoves, there's ovens, there's countertops, there's places for pizzas to be baked, pies to be baked, and you could just see all this different cooking staff going through that they are sneaking under and around like they're sneaking around the Jurassic Park Velociraptor scene. It would be more comical if it wasn't for the fact that all of these people have knives and weapons that they can definitely fight with while they're cleaning up food and preparing the next course. And there are a few bags nearby that have, of course, you see someone unloading a bag of meat. You can roll a nature check if you want. I don't think you want to.
No, I don't.
Hacha does not do so, but we're gonna roll for Tiny Mom. Thank God that was not high enough. She doesn't question it, but doesn't like how some of the meat looks. It doesn't look humanoid, but it sure doesn't look like stuff she'd want to eat. And that knife is a lot bigger than her. It is bigger than her, and she doesn't want chopped into funny little porcelain bits. Follows along, follows along. A good majority of the fairies look like very large bugs, but bugs based on candy. So, you just have a rhinoceros beetle that looks like an animal cracker, for example, and just that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But eventually they get in, and the ones that have the dishes, they don't follow the ones with dirty dishes because the ones with dirty dishes are going to the sink. It's the clean dishes they follow. And it's Tiny Wife that sort of crawls along the floor, but she is the stealthier one of the two. And Pocha follows along, and they peek in and wait aside. The guard, whoever it is, guard, staff, you don't know, puts away the dishes and then leaves. And I'm gonna roll both of them stealth to see how well they sneak in. It's a good thing they had such high modifiers for that. As the guard is heading out and is about to carefully turn around, and you realize he's gonna lock it shut, the two of them quietly and flawlessly sneak in like shadows. And then the door is shut behind them and locked, and they're trapped in the room. The steps fade away, and Pocha eventually flicks her fingers to make a light. Similar, you note, to how Belle does it with Produce Flame. Sweetheart, are you sure we should be in here? We could just ask what they did with the dishes. You're the one that wanted to sneak in, remember? Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't like conversation. Yeah, that's part of why you avoid it so much. You're talking about me, why I can't talk to Wulong, but you just don't like talking, period. Do you remember that for 6 months you pretended you were mute when we first were talking? Well, yeah, but and as they're sort of inching along, just she's being carried along, but she's just glancing around in this complete darkness. I mean, I just did that because I liked listening to you talk. I didn't want to interrupt it with my annoying voice. Your voice isn't annoying. We've been over this. And I like listening to it sing. So if you'd just stayed quiet the whole time, I never would have heard that. And that would have upset me. And you can see the little hand painted blush just crawling across your tiny mom's face. And then, as Pocha is holding the flame around, she kind of pauses in front of one of these. They look like hand carved wooden cabinets with glass windows. And she is pausing and staring while her wife continues. I mean, it has been a while. I don't know how good my voice is going to be, but once we get out of here, I could try and sing a little more when I do chores around the house. If that makes you feel a bit better. And she kind of reaches her non-flaming fingers down and just politely turns her wife's head. If that would make you feel better. And you don't see what they see, but they do not look pleased by it. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, she kind of says that at the same time as her wife and just is like, And then she just sets her wife on a nearby counter, which is also dusty with cobwebs, mind you, and also has dishes on it. Okay, well, I think we saw what we needed to. Maybe we could, ask? No, no, we could just leave and forget we ever saw it. And leave all these here as if. No, we wouldn't leave it here, obviously. But, we've seen what we have to. We had our word. We're a curiosity sated. We should go. Yeah, and I'll go once I let some of these poor people out. People, you don't know how long they've been in there. I don't think they're people anymore. I don't know about this, Poacher. I think we really need to go. Look, just let me see if I can get an interaction, okay? Just a little. And she's just kind of trying to fiddle around with the cabinet door, but it's clearly locked magically. She tries tapping on the glass a little, just quietly. Poacher! Shh, shh. But if you're so sure, why don't you try tapping on it? And she gestures to the fact that she is now set on a 5 foot tall counter and can't get down or walk on her own yet. And then gestures to the cabinet that is across this little path. Poacher sighs, walks over, picks her up. Good girl, thank you. Mm. And just sort of heaves her up, and she tries knocking with her very tiny hands. Knock, 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 knock. And I get to roll perception with disadvantage.
Oh boy.
There is no reaction. She just sets her little ceramic palms against it. See? Nothing. I think we need to go. We can help them at a different point. If they're we don't even have to. They might just be decorative. And Poacher just gives her a look, holds her a bit closer. Okay, tell me if the head of one of my teachers looks decorative to you. It just kind of holds her up to a particular figural mug that you do note indeed looks like one of those, the collector mugs that have the faces on it. It looks like your head. It looks like Matcha's head, kind of, except with it is very clearly carved in the style of like a little figural lion's head, but it's a lion mug. And it is just sitting there, eyes closed, motionless. Your tiny mama grimaces. Right, I get your point, but again, we might be lingering in here too long. If we could just get out of here, then maybe. And she pauses a minute and goes, "Did you hear the door make a noise earlier?" Yeah, I. Oh no. It just kind of quietly stalks back over to the door with wife in tow, tries the door. Locked. And you can see the little Grolix come up as she's about to say, you see a little screen pop up that goes, technical difficulties, please stand by. Da 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 da. And when the scene comes back, she's trying to pick the lock and failing horribly. It's okay, it's fine. We're not locked in here. It's fine. I can do this. I can do this. Sweetheart, I'm the one proficient with the lockpick. Could you let me? Yeah, sure, sure. And then she takes the lockpick set and sits aside and waits. Darla, the door? Yeah, I'm going to wait until there's no more movement. Thank you. And as the scene moves, you can see that the door gets unlocked again, and they dart into the shadows as one of the people that was washing dishes comes in, unlocks one of the doors, puts away more dishes, and when the door opens up and the light gets in, you can catch a glimpse for a moment of cabinet upon dish cabinet upon dish cabinet, filled with mugs and cups that were probably once object heads and are no longer. And then she turns around, leaves the room, and before the others can dart out because they're in separate corners trying to hide, they hurry toward the door and she closes it and locks it and they bonk into each other. Ow! Sorry, sorry. No, no, my fault. Sorry, sweetheart. Shoot. Okay, so, how do we get out of here? And just she holds up the lock pit set that she has, and they're held up, and they wait until it's quiet before starting to pick the lock. And then she hears her jostling, and your tiny mama goes, "Ah, I think I got it." And she goes to open it, and when everything is quiet and it's all gone dark, the door opens, but she's not the one that opens it. Instead, you see Roquefort, standing in uniform, with a small candlestick, looking tired. The scene is dead fucking quiet. And then your tiny mama waves, goes, "Hello, we got lost." "I noticed. You wouldn't mind escorting us back to our rooms, would you? We were looking for the bathroom, see, and we weren't able to find it. I thought the women's room would have been out here, but it's clearly not. And I'm gonna roll them deception." And Roguefort rolls his googly eyes and just turns and goes, "Come on, it is this way." "Ah, thank you. Merci." And they just carefully follow along. The kitchen is now dark, but the scene skips over anything else and instead is heading down a hall that is completely deserted toward their rooms. "You know, you were supposed to leave this evening." "Yeah, I know. We were a bit delayed. Terribly sorry about that." "And you were delayed for a 3-hour trip to the restroom?" And he kind of glances back and just stares at them, and Tiny Mama just smiles nervously. "Yeah, terribly sorry about that. The architecture here has been very confusing. It's like a labyrinth, I swear." Hmm. He just heads over. "You know, you were in forbidden territory back there." "Oh, were we? Shoot, I'm sorry, I didn't see any signs." "There were signs. I didn't understand what they said. They were written in Common, Sylvan, Elvish, and Goblin. I can't read. I'm gonna roll for deception for that.
That caught me off guard. That was funny.
And I'm gonna roll insight for Roquefort. Roquefort is on another. God damn it, give me a minute. He can't break through a 24. But, what was that back there that we found? There were a lot of dishes just gathering dust. Dishes, like you said. Collectible. So, not all of them are used. Collectible? And she just kind of glances up to her wife, and Pocha glances back down. I mean, everyone has a hobby, but I didn't think collecting spooky figural mugs and plates with faces on them was in my list of expectations. I'm very sorry. Um, there's nobody has to know that we accidentally found that while looking for the bathroom, do they? "Oh no, you went into explicitly forbidden territory. They would have to know regardless." Even on accident? Especially on accident. It means somebody wasn't on duty to make sure nobody could get in, and somebody is going to be punished for that. "Oh, I mean, I'd feel bad for that, but it still was an accident." "Yes, I know. And I would be more sympathetic if it was not me that you bypassed." And he glances back with a very tired glare. "Oh, my mistake. So, are you gonna tell the head chef?" That's what you called her, right? Head chef? Grandmother. And he, you can roll insight on him, but his expression's interesting.
I should note there's quite a bit of noise happening in the background, so at least on OBS I'm muted for most of the time.
Understandable.
What role was that again?
Insight.
Insight, thank you. Matcha, my beloved. 5.
Let me roll for Bell, because he is also, whether he likes it or not, he is now audience to this. Bell notices, Matcha does not. Unfortunately, I would still have to tell grandmother that you did trespass, and there would be a punishment involved. Ah, is there no way we could apologize for that? It was genuinely an accident. Yes, it was, and grandmother is notoriously unforgiving. She would punish it regardless. Ah, can't. No, wait, you can't say anything. You're the one that we were apparently bypassing. Shoot. And you see Poach is adjusting her grip on her wife, but her wife looks to be the guiltier one. Is there nothing we can do to help your case? None. I am likely going to be reprimanded either way. And if I do not come up with a decent enough excuse, it is just he doesn't have a mouth, so but you do note that his cheeks sort of tighten in the way a tight frown would. So I am afraid I cannot help you get out. Dang it. Especially not by telling you that if you were to leave, it would be 6 turns to the left, 1 turn right, pass by 17 doors. And as he starts casually listing the way out of whatever labyrinthine building they're in, it, your tinier mama glances up looking surprised. And then Pocha starts to process it. And Pocha, while still holding on to tiny mama, pulls up. I'm gonna roll her hyperspace. So close to a fumble. So close. She pulls up a piece of paper and a pencil and just starts scribbling this as they walk. And I certainly could not tell you that by following the gumdrop trail you would be able to head back out to the leaving platform, head back out into the mountain trail, and follow the yellow gummy bricks. And then you would be able to find your way back out. Certainly would not be able to help you there. Right, right, right. And he's just writing, writing. Unfortunately, I can be of no assistance to you. All I can do is try to turn you into grandmother and save my own case. Turn us in? That is what has to happen. And there's just
Give
a
me a moment.
moment of silence. Yeah? And there's sort of dead silence between the three of them. As Roquefort then goes, I'm afraid I cannot avoid turning you into grandmother. The kitchen will have to decide what to do with you past that point, and it will be out of my hands. All I can offer you is my condolences. And as he turns around, he says, a bit more softly, you don't need an insight check to hear that. And I am certainly not going to give you a 10-second head start. And they stand there for a moment, glancing at each other before he says, un, deux, trois. And then they get it, and they just bolt down the halls past him. And he's counting. I cannot continue the counting in French. And as the seconds pass, they are running, running, running. It is desolate halls. And it doesn't really look like anybody else is on patrol at the moment, but that's just because you can't see them. And they're following his specific directions to avoid other guards they're patrolling. And then officially, he finishes count, takes a deep breath, and goes, and again. And faster than your eye can blink, he bolts off after them in a blur of color. He's a faster flyer than you gave him credit for. And when he starts moving and there's that buzz to his wings, you almost can't even process that's the same guy. As he's passing by, he makes alarm buzzes left, right, and center to guards that he's passing by for others to be alerted, and they start passing the alert on and on. But Pocha and your other mother, she is running with her in arms. They are running, running, running. Completely pass by their room. Duck in there very quickly to avoid some of the guards that did catch up and run right past. Glance out to make sure nobody else is following. Then grabs their bags, get out of the room, and continue scrambling along, Hanna-Barbera Scooby-Doo style. And the scene is getting blurrier and blurrier. It's just running, running, running. And they're avoiding fairies and pixies, which are flying after them with a force. And spells are being cast that are actually hitting a lot of them and being thrown off. And there's one that you swear summons a wave of whipped cream from your mother's book? And this catches a lot of them. But one of the ones that dodges persistently and continues following is Roguefort. Again and again, he dodges spells, he deflects, he takes shortcuts. He gave them a head start, but he still has to follow. They get outside of whatever this magnanimous, beautiful looking building is. You don't even care. Following trails, and unfortunately, one of the shots does land, and you hear the sound of shattering ceramic as something on Pocha breaks. She stumbles, and you see one of her ankles has been shot out. She swears and grollicks, and Roquefort aims, makes himself hesitate for a moment so Pocha can dodge what would have been a headshot. The fight continues from there, and if you weren't trained to how Roquefort fights, you would think he wasn't holding back. But it's clear that he's giving moments to pass and giving moments to dodge attacks. And at one point, they end up throwing mud from what was apparently a sort of, you think of some sort of rain, but it's sugary, sweet, and sticky, and it's tossed into his googly eyes and basically binds them shut, and he's pawing at his face with all his insectoid hands as they run. But then the other guards are out and follow past him, and he's struggling to get it off. And that's when something else passes by him. Just as he gets it unbound from one of his googly eyes, a blur of black licorice. Quadrupedal figures that dart by him and blend into trees that appear to be made from candy and bushes that appear to be gummy. Quadrupedal, feline forms with tentacles that shift and disappear into the grass. And as he moves forward, a slender hand catches his shoulder and he glances over and up. But the camera follows your parents. It doesn't follow Roquefort. You don't care for Roquefort. Why would you? It's not going to follow him. He's not who the wish is about. As they head further in and further in, and your vision follows them, they pass by what appears to be a sign and a very thin barrier, and most of the guards don't follow. A few more do, but notably have a bit more difficulty flying through this area. And then you see these quivering black shapes. But then there's a second barrier bypassed, and they're onto this yellow gum brick road. And going, and going. And eventually, the issue is they can't stay on the road because they're being tracked in the open. So Pocha darts into the tree line, even though she was recommended not to. And eventually they lose the guards. They do not, however, lose the black licorice displacer beasts, one of which whips your mother across the back, earning a shout. What follows next is a tense confrontation where Pocha is pounced upon, your other mother tossed from her arms as one of the displacer beasts pounces on her. Again, it's Think of those little Scottish black licorice hounds, but a displacer beast flavor instead.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what displacer beasts are, do you?
Uh, Not no. I thought I would have caught on, but I didn't.
Displacer beasts are one of D&D's most famous monsters, but not for the reasons you'd think. They are black panthers with tentacles on their back that have a distinct ability that whenever they move and whenever they attack, there's always disadvantage to hitting them because they are
Oh,
shifting and blurring
those
in and out of sight.
things. Oh.
And these are made of black licorice and are trying to get at your mothers with black licorice whips and snarling black licorice teeth. But she manages to fight that off, and your smaller mother, in spite of the fact she's barely even able to walk, she kind of can't. Again, obvious reason being, broke a leg and a foot earlier, actually manages to land a backstabbing blow on the one that's got Pocha pinned. And she's able to toss her off and at least swings at the muzzle the second one so Pocha can get to her feet and keep running. But the Displacer Beast is faster than she is, even though she's darting as quickly as she can. And as they're heading toward what appears to be a completely different thing, you kind of can't process it because the memory around this is blurred. Past this point, you're not sure what it is. But there's another sign that they bypass, and as things start to get blurrier and blurrier, and the nature starts looking more wild, Pocha says something quiet that you don't catch, and your tiny mother goes, "Wait, what?" And Pocha lifts her tiny wife and tosses her through the barrier. Poing! And her tiny wife bounces a few times and lands on the other side and looks up, but she can't see where Pocha is now, or the displacer beast. She can hear it, but when she tries crawling toward it, there is the sound of conflict, and she doesn't see what happens immediately. You on the other side see that Pocha is doing a surprisingly solid job of wrestling the displacer beast outright. And you remember one of the stories your grandfather, Wulong, told you. She was a monk for a few years. She's a martial artist by nature, so she is actually not having the worst time physically assaulting the cat. But the cat is also not having the worst time trying to rip her to pieces about it. There's scuffs, there's cuts, there's bruises, pieces are being chipped. And eventually, when the displacer beast looks like it would get the last blow, there is a shout in common of "Sit!" And the displacer beast sits. And there you can see a pair of black licorice guards standing next to the head chef, the Fae with the Gibson girl hair, looking tired, and wearing a small pair of reading glasses. Her words, however, are blurred in memory, as are your mother's, as this imagery grows more and more distorted. But other images pass by. Pocha is captured, Pocha is restrained. Somewhere dark, it's purple and red, and rather eerie looking. Something about something about this Gibson gal head chef looks off in one of them. Her skin doesn't look the same color in one of the other images. And then a knife. And then when next the image passes, you see your mother. Your mother's body, dressed as one of the guards, with a transparent glass teacup head sitting in place of Pocha's head. And Pocha's actual head sitting, quiet and politely, in the same cabinet as the other heads, collecting dust. When the image flickers over, you flicker back to your smaller mother, and she starts out lost and confused in this completely untamed looking food based wilderness. But she eventually seems to find somebody else with very wild blonde hair, and as time passes, you watch as the clock passes by 1 year, two, three, spins, and eventually you see her. Her finely painted ceramic bun has been undone now, and her hair is cut short, cropped, as if with a knife. Her clothes are bound up and either sewn back shut, painted back shut, or just replaced altogether. One of her sleeves has been replaced with a completely different fabric, and Her legs look to have healed just fine, though one ankle appears to have twisted and stays permanently twisted, so she now has a cane. And she is just sitting there, the cane settled between her legs, staring into a fire pit, sitting, which is just at the base of an oven as that same figure with wild blonde hair cooks something that you do note, in memory, smells delicious. Her expression is tired, haunted, but determined, and what was once a softer looking face is now roughed and scuffed by living it out in the wilds of the untamed part of the food court's domain of delight, where this other mysterious stranger is sitting. And just as the image is about to completely fade, you catch a glimpse of him as she looks up. He's in a tattered apron. He has long, wild blonde hair and curls and ringlets, and delicate blue eyes with bags underneath. He looks like a very, very old Gene Wilder. And the image blurs, and allow me to roll something real quick as that image comes to a close. As the imagery comes to mind, you get information that helps more directionally for a child's mind. Your parents were lost thanks to a mutiny courtesy of an expedition they went on that they were betrayed and trapped and left to die, but were rescued by what the magic tells you was the food court, the court that Roguefort belongs to. However, they were curious about something involving the dishes and saw something in the kitchen they weren't supposed to. But Roguefort, being the guard on duty at the time, gave them a head start and gave them a chance to get some distance before he called the alarm. They ran, but Pocha was captured and eventually integrated into the guards, where her head was put in collection with other intruders and trophies. And your other mother, Darla, bless her heart, has been staying in the untamed and dangerous part of the food court's Feywild, of their domain of delight, where it seems that not even the guards will go, with this mysterious blonde stranger, waiting to get her wife back and go home. The magic also tells that her memory isn't completely the same, but thanks to photographs and assurance from this mysterious figure, she hasn't forgotten everything. But her mind's a little off. Just a touch. After all, 3 years in the Feywild does things to a person, let alone a grieving wife. And for a moment, as the imagery starts coming back to the main room, would you? That was a bug. That was a bug. It was fine. It was just a bug.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I'm totally fine. I totally didn't back up and nearly disconnect my headphones because I was scared by a goddamn bug. Don't worry about it. It's cool. We're cool. We're cool. I'm cool. Anyway, um, you almost think you're heading back into the scene, and Bell is going. Bell almost opens his mouth, and you can hear it for a moment because he fades out of it. You kind of fade out of it first. He fades out of it last. Suppose that answers that question. And in the middle of saying question, you see the light enter his eyes again, and you enter his head instead. Because Bell did say something in the wording of his wish. That means that your parents aren't the only ones they find out about. For a moment, it snaps back to a cluster of Muppet-born kittens and a very small rubber hose, fuzzy black cat in a cute little dress, 1880s, 1890s style, with a very small 1-inch pair of horns. There is a brief moment, a flash of wanted posters, a flash of kittens causing trouble, but the posters aren't of the kittens. They're of this other Muppet born, this tall, sleek, fuzzy, and deadly looking black cat Muppet born, with a smile to her face and endless fans of adoration on the stage, before rumors spread. Something related to a devil, something relating to spells or a pact. Rumors, rumors, rumors. Fades into obscurity, fades into the Luthbian Alliance, fades into Goldwyn. Her base elsewhere was blown up by adventurers. There is no home. It's just them now. They stay on a farm and they do work. That's all. That's it. But they still commit small crimes to make ends meet. And Mother tries to teach one of Mother tries to teach her kittens the means of the business. You almost hear a dead name, but you do not. Instead, you catch sight of a sickness, of sweating faces, worn out joints, sores, loss of color, loss of voice that drips out of the mouth, coughing, wheezing. Your mind flickers past what would be the images of plague and death as you flash through the Great Rot, and eventually to that Muppet-born black cat trying to make way out of a bank. She's throttled by a guard and continues to try to fight, but the mask she wears over her mouth is yanked down, and she's sworn at. But kicks him, and he coughs blood into her face. Her fate is sealed. The image flashes by it. You don't see her die. But 1 year later, she's gone, leaving kittens. And yet the imagery fades into the dark, and it doesn't fade into all the kittens. It just fades to one. To an 8-year-old kitten, then a 13-year-old cat living in the alleys with 2-inch long horns and what appears to be ink stains on his hands and a haunted look in his face, but still looking like he hasn't fully physically transitioned yet. But he's no longer wearing dresses, and he looks haunted. And yet in this memory, you note he doesn't look like Rubber Hose, like your memory distorted him to look. He looks like a Warren, almost like a Looney Tune, with scruffy shoulders and elbows, knobby knees, and big hands and feet, lion claws, and these wide, young, scared eyes that eventually fade into the small, slim, green eyes of a humanoid figure behind him as his figure fades. And you see, just for a moment, a silhouette sitting behind a desk. He's in a lab coat, messing around with what appears to be a piece of fire. But it's a differently colored fire than you're used to. It's fire you've only seen in the Hells, in Toon Hell when you went to fight Bell. Except this one is brighter and it appears to be more violent, reacting to prods and twitches with these magical implements. This figure wears goggles with green lenses as he works. Eventually, he seems to make a controlled explosion in his hands that consumes a 60-foot room he is testing it in, and then he dissipates it and pulls up the goggles. And this figure, at least in this appearance, looks like Vincent Price. He just looks like green-eyed Vincent Price, dressed like a mad scientist, working with fire in what is very clearly a laboratory made of glass and ice. And nearby, you see a similar figure, also clad in protective gear, wearing goggles and other such implements. It almost completely conceals her, but when she lifts her goggles on gesture, you see the familiar blue eyes of Belle's mother, looking distinctly not sick and distinctly not dead. Those eyes smile, and Vincent Price smiles back. And for a moment, the imagery fades and you get a name: Mephisto. And the name Mephisto brings to mind, of course, Kenya, the coldest realm of the Nine Hells, which you know next to nothing of. It just brings to mind Mephisto, Kenya, and shows a few devils that would have served as implement. There are devils that look like giant bugs, that look like they would have been born in the ice. There are devils with towering horns. There are Erinyes, or humanoid female-looking figures clad in armor with heavily downy wintry wings as opposed to the others. They look deceptively angelic only because of colors. And then it moves over to the devils with the big horns and the spined tails and the same ranseurs that he has. And one of them doesn't look right. One of them stands there looking like she's wearing the art style they're supposed to, because these are all still animated, mind you. But when she turns and glances toward the camera and toward you, her eyes do not look animated. Her eyes look real kind. One a blazing fiery red, and the other turning a serpentine gold. And then the image flickers out, and you're back in the bedroom. Jenny is sitting there with a bowl of popcorn, having watched your reactions but not seen whatever the fuck you actually saw, looking absolutely excited. Like, she's got her legs crossed around it, she's just beaming that it worked. She looks happy as can be. She has no context to, what you just saw.
All that.
And Belle is now sitting there, looking confused. He glances over to. He almost got over to Matcha and asks him, "Did did you happen to have a third dad that I just saw pictures of, or was that?"
I,
"Oh, you guys saw something? What did you see? What did you see? What'd you find out?" And Bill Cuddy glances over and he realizes, only we saw it. Jenny is looking clueless to the situation. Wow, it is raining hard. My goodness.
oh boy. Matcha looks tense. Like, Jenny would have noticed throughout the majority of that, the last big half of everything that they had just seen, he had been kind of like folded in on himself.
And Jenny's joy at this having worked and them getting their wish granted starts to fade. Did did it work? What's wrong? Did it backfire? Oh, no, no, I don't think it no, I don't think it backfired. It worked. Cool, because it felt like it worked. You've got two left now. But um and Belle just kind of gives Matcha a very soft look.
Uh, do me an insight. It's a low DC, but do me one anyway.
Belle, you dense motherfucker, why?
Well, he's not saying anything.
Jenny got a 12.
Uh, Matcha doesn't want to talk anymore.
And Jenny kind of floats down from the bucket and sits next to Matcha. Hun? You alright, hun? And she sort of. If she had popcorn before and was almost entertained watching your reaction to the wish, because mostly just the excitement of, hey, the wish worked, I remember how it works. She's set it aside and is reaching a very small hand out to touch his shoulder just to try and snap him out of it.
He he gives her a glance, but for the most part, he's averting his eyes. He. You'd almost expect him to be shaking, but he's almost too still. He's not he's not giving a direct answer either. He
Belle sort of He reaches up and he gets his tea, and his tea is still warm, mind you. It seems like in real time, barely any time had passed. What you were seeing, what I described, all happened in the span of seconds. And he sort of scoots down so that he's at, on his knees, just at proper level with Matcha on the floor. Well, did you see it? What happened? I believe we caught a glimpse of their parents in the Feywild. And he glances over to Jenny, and Jenny looks, well, the weight of it's now hit. Oh, alive? Or no, definitely alive. But it's not great. Oh. And I saw someone else, but that involved my mother, so I don't know why that showed up. Oh, you might have worded it so you learned about your parents a bit. But I didn't want to. Yeah, that's kind of how genie wishes work. It's a little different than the coin. And then Machi, you realize, right, the chocolate coin that you have.
He's been holding on to it this entire time. I think that's when he realizes that he still has it, and he considers it for a minute. He flips it around in his hand and then stuffs it into his pocket.
Jenny glances at that, but Belle is still watching him softly. I'm gonna actually roll the physical sneaky dice for Belle for a moment. You can describe if Masha does anything else.
I had one more thought, but it might require moving on a bit.
Moving on a bit.
Moving on a bit, as in leaving the goddamn room. So, your thing first.
Belle thinks on this for a moment. And if Matcha left the room, would that end the FPS? Because Belle's dice decided one more thing.
I want to hear what you've got.
Well, Belle's dice decided he's going to go from 2 wishes to 1 here shortly.
Huh. Okay. Um.
You can describe if Matcha starts to do anything, because Belle's probably going to make his second wish anyway.
Alright, okay, I'm not gonna even roll for this. I think it's better if this just happens, but he, after putting the coin away, he kind of like, um, his head perks up, quickly, and then he remembers that, hey, the wording included his brother, and his brother isn't
Yes, it did.
here. So he mutters under his breath that he needs to find Ty, and then he just goes. He just runs out the door.
Belle reaches out, but Matcha's gone. Jenny just sort of glances from the open door that is only starting to swing shut to Belle. Belle glances to her, and then to the porcelain doll head aside. And he's quiet for a long while as she starts to talk. Well, if he wants to help matters, he has the coin. But you're down to 2 wishes now, and you still haven't said what you originally were going to wish for, so I'd probably. Can I use the second one? Second, it immediately? Can I? I I. Mm. She glances over to the door and back to him. I mean, they're your wishes. That's up to you, but I don't know if you needed more than one wish for what your problem was. And he glances over to Matcha's door, and I'm going to let Dice Parser roll this one. Jenny, what we just saw wasn't great. Apparently. And the camera instead follows Matcha and wherever he's going to try and find his brother, as Belle talks. Apparently, their parents on their last expedition were left to die, but didn't, and were saved by a few explorers courtesy of the food court, which one of our coworkers was a part of. Ah, and I assume they got trapped there? They did. Apparently, curiosity got the better of them, and our coworker gave them a head start, but it didn't save anything. They're still alive, but they're still there. In the Feywild, somewhere. Oh. And above board, where would Teacup be at this point, since he also just got all that funny imagery?
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't entirely considered, but he's honestly, I don't know if he's at EGAD's headquarters. He might have just. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna heads or tails.
Heads.
He was asleep.
Aw, he woke up from that like it was a dream.
He wasn't at EGAD, but he was asleep. Spitballing. Probably. Let's say maybe it was with Emily. Maybe it was at Emily's place.
Maybe.
But this time Matcha knew that he wasn't here. Knew that where he was. He knew Matcha knew where he was, and he's running to go find him or catch up to where he is.
Jenny, you don't think that was a. You don't think that first wish I made was a bad one, do you? Well, no. Like we said earlier, there's no such thing as bad wishes. Bad people can make wishes, but that doesn't make the wishes themselves bad. A wish is a wish, and it usually always has some benefit to it. That's why wishes are so coveted by mortals. They always do some good, even if they don't do what you expect. Right, but the small child just ran out that he did, yeah, but that was a lot for a small kid to see. Right. And seeing as you sound confused, I think it was a lot for you too. And he just sort of glances to her and then back to his lap tiredly, back to the teacup he had set nearby. Do you want to talk about it? And I'm going to see if I can roll persuasion on her before anything else. And a roll to resist conversation. No, I think I'm fine. Because I mean, there was a bucket of water and Macho was just pulling a prank. That was all. I'm gonna roll deception for him real quick, especially considering who he's lying to. Her expression doesn't look like she's bought it, and she floats a little closer and seats on the floor. Belle, I can't help you if you don't talk about it. Please? And she reaches forward for his hands, and I need to make him a roll real quick. And he doesn't pull back as she just holds his. And as the door slowly swings shut, he just glances back to it and back to Jenny. And I need to make him one last roll before we cut away from him. Well, see, Jenny, I've, for years now, I've been having these horrible, ultra realistic nightmares. So physical, it's as if they actually hurt. And, and as it fades in, do you think the camera would cut back to Teacup and Matcha, or do you think it would cut to black?
Um, I think it's a quick scene. It's only a few frames really, but um, Matcha practically tackle hugs his brother.
And how does Teacup look before the scene ends?
Not upset, but confused.
And how does Matcha look before the scene ends?
His eyes are shut tight and his face is buried into Teacup's shoulder, but he's I don't know, how I don't have the word for it, but he's still tense.
And as the scene focuses on the two brothers embracing, it is just a few frames and it goes dark. And as the credits start to roll, you think it would stay dead silent. And yet there is another voice. Another pair of adventurers gets away from you, huh? That couldn't have been too good. It was a mistake that happened once. It will not happen again. I'll see to it that it doesn't. You'd get rebaked if you failed to capture someone else again. And imagine what else could have happened. They could have stolen something. A secret? A cup? A sacred cookbook. I would not have allowed them to do such a thing. You know that. And for a moment, it's not a memory that any of the boys get, but it's a memory back then, 3 years ago. A rogue fort talking to a what appears to be another dinner critter fairy. Googly eyes, no mouth, and hair is tied back. And it's not licorice twist hair though, it's sour candy ribbon and bright green eyes. You best see to it that it doesn't. The head chef won't tolerate failure from you again. I am well aware of this fact, especially seeing as I have dealt with her failure and the punishments more than you have. So I would watch your words if I were you. Right, of course. I forgot I was talking to her son. My mistake. And he bows his head and flitters off. An image falls on Roquefort for a moment again. From 3 years ago, sitting there, glancing out of the window, to the untamed, hand-painted, candied wilderness of the food court's domain of delight, where somewhere the memory part of it eventually fades. The wilder part has grown even wilder still, thicker to navigate. And a small campfire in the distance dies, as very small steps hurry off into the woods, once again searching for something that currently can't be found. And the last few musical notes that the FPS ends on are a few. Just quiet, melancholic notes like that, almost of a music box. Dun, 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 and dun, dun. The music box, the scene, the credits, cut. And that brings us to the end of the FPS. What's in a wish? In the plot twist of the session, Matcha would not use his chocolate coin wish for anything as of yet, and instead, Jenny will be reminded how to grant wishes, and Belle would see one of his used for the sake of the boys, bringing his count down to 2. 2 wishes left, and I'll have to roll him a memory, seeing as he succeeded that memory roll from earlier. But we're not covering that here. Instead, we are left in the note of 2 boys hugging each other, with a reminder of parents, and now the unfortunate knowledge as to what kept their parents so long. The good news is their parents are alive. Belle has confirmed as much. The memory would have told them if they died, but the imagery isn't good. Their much smaller mother sitting in the wild. Their other mother, Pocha, sitting with a head that isn't hers, while her own sits in a cabinet full of dishes that likely were just like her once. All used to present these beautiful dishes baked by the food court, who would house and shelter them until they spat upon their hospitality. We are left with a glimpse of what Roquefort's life might have been 3 years ago, and a little glimpse as to his life with the court, including his relation to the strange head chef, who he calls grandmother, and yet the ranger claims he is her son, not a grandson. And Belle is left with a conflict, trying to do something good in using his wish and instead feeling like he might have done something wrong. Instead, feeling like he's hurt the boys rather than helped them, and needing assurance from Jenny or someone else that maybe that's not the case, and that maybe he needs to talk about these terrible nightmares he's been having as of late, especially since he's remembering a bit more about them. But one wish has been spent from Belle's collect. He has two left. Matcha still has his chocolate coin, and the boys now at least have a thought. Their parents are alive. They're not there, of course, but they are. And while it's debated whether the boys can do anything about that, seeing as they are just two small children already having to deal with the Isle and its troubles, they at least have the slightest bit of closure as to where their parents are. And what they use for that is entirely up to them. But for now, that is the end of the FPS. We end on two very small early morning conversations. We end on a flashback and a dying fire pit and a music box. Are you satisfied with ending on that note, Cherry?
Yep.
Then we would like to thank the listeners for coming in. We do hope you'll be with us again soon. In the meantime, I'm Mikey,
I'm Jerry, or Mac.
and this has been What's in a Wish, with TuneKind at 12 frames per second. We hope you'll be able to join us again soon, and hopefully what you join next will be a bit of a lighter mood in comparison. But thank you for watching, and we hope you have an excellent evening. Stay safe.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.